Good to see you. Hope you had a good day. It's been very nice, I think. And we're here tonight to study for a while. Turn to John 15. That's where we'll pick up our study tonight. John 15. Let's begin with a prayer together. Father, we're grateful for this beautiful day, for the weather that has been so good, made us feel so much better. And we thank you that at the close of the day, we're able to be together to study the Word. We thank you for times like this. May we never take them for granted. May we value and treasure the Word. Look into it often. Try to understand it and apply it to our lives. We thank you for each person who's here. We ask your blessings upon those who cannot be here for some reason or another. Open up our minds and our hearts now as we study together, that we may leave after a while so much the better for being here. In Jesus' name, amen. In the first 8 verses of John 15, we find the relationship that Jesus has to his disciples. It's like a branch connected to a vine. And who remembers what the key word in that section is? Abide. That's exactly right. I believe it's found 10 times in that section. And I have said, if you find a word repeated, and especially that many times and that few verses, then you need to perk up and say, there's something there for me to learn. If I had to take verses 9 on through the end of the chapter and give a title to it, it would be Love versus Hate. We're going to find out about loving, and we're going to find out about hating. Jesus, I think, wanted his disciples to be ready for the next day and what was coming. Now keep in mind that we're probably in the garden. They've left the upper room where they had the institution of the Lord's Supper and where Jesus washed the disciples' feet. They left there and went to the Garden of Gethsemane. And it's fitting that he would talk about the vine and the branches there, because it was the Mount of Olives. And what did they grow on olives? On olive branches. Olives. What did it take to have olives? Olive branches. And so the connection would have been very vivid. And Jesus drew upon that figure, I think. In verse 9, he says, "As the Father loved me, I also have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that your joy may remain in you and that your joy may be full." Was this a time when you would think of the disciples having joy?
Not at all.
Not at all. What's going to happen on the next day? What's going to happen that night? He's going to be arrested. The next day he's going to be tried, and then he's going to be put to death. It's kind of interesting that Jesus would talk about having joy. What does that tell you about joy? The kind that Jesus is talking about.
It's joy that comes from God, not
Okay.
It's not based on one momentary type thing that happens. Kind of like a godly love is perfect and pure good.
Yeah, I think everybody who's commented has had the idea. Um, this kind of joy does not depend upon one event. It is an abiding joy that comes from, here he says, keeping the commandments. It should not be surprising, excuse me, that 1 John would weigh in on this, because written by the same person. But in 1 John chapter 5 and verse 3, John says, "For this is the love of God, that you keep his commandments, and his commandments are not burdensome." I want to ask you about that. Do you ever find his commandments burdensome? Please be honest. Only when you want to do something else. Only when they conflict with what you want to do. That's exactly right. The idea is they are not meant to be burdensome. Sometimes there are rules and regulations that I know are for my good, but I find them burdensome. I have always used the illustration of wearing seatbelts. I hate them. Anybody else? They just don't fit me right. And somebody that says, well, if you had a car that had one of those things where you can move it up and down, I have one of those cars. And I can't move it anyway. Well, you can get an extender and put on. I have an extender to put on it. It's just like, it just chafes me. That's not why they put those in cars. That's not why they put seatbelts in cars. They put seatbelts in cars because it's been demonstrated that they save lives. They're not meant to be burdensome. They can be. Sometimes the commandments of the Lord can be a bit burdensome when it's not what I want to do. But that's not the intent. The intent is to help me through things. And here, they're going to be going through some really tough stuff. That night, as I said, he'll be arrested. He'll be tried in the night. The next day, he will be put to death. And then there will be that Sabbath day where it's like he's in the tomb and it all is lost. And it reminds me of the famous sermon, "It's Friday, but Sunday's coming." Sunday came and changed everything because he arose from the grave. And so Jesus assures them that he has love for them. And he calls upon them to have love for him. And the proof of that is keeping his commandments. If I were to say, do you love Jesus? I think everybody would say, yeah, I do. If I say, do you keep his commandments? You might say, well, there's maybe not. The proof of our loving him is keeping his commandments. And these things were not said to discourage them, but they're said that their joy might be fulfilled. It is an idea of something to sustain them, something to help them through this greater time. Now, we talked about that last week, and so I'm not going to dwell on it. In large part, we'll take a comment or a question if you have one, and that's fine. But I wanted to catch us up with that. Anybody have something you want to say, some comment you want to make, question to ask? John, you just look like you want to say, oh, no. Okay. Then beginning in verse 12, he talks about the relationship of disciple to disciple. To this point, it's been the Lord to the disciples, the disciples to the Lord. And then in verse 12, this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. You are my friends if you do whatever I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends. For all things that I heard from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give you. These things I command you, that you love one another. Why would this be such an important instruction to them?
Because love is very important to Jesus.
Because what?
Love is very important to Jesus.
It is. It is.
Spread with the Jews to the Gentiles, and they have to accept that, and they have to love them just like they do the Jewish brothers.
I think their love is getting ready to be tested. And Peter's going to betray, Judas is going to betray.
Jesus is going to be killed. I mean, he's going to be.
Yeah.
So,
And what had been going on among them up until this point?
Who is greater?
The old jealousy game. Who is greatest? I'm greater than you. No, I'm greater than you. No, I'm greater than you. No, I'm greater than you. And what I've never understood is what the basis of that was. It doesn't say. The text does not say, because of this they were doing this. It just says they were arguing about who was the greatest. And to people who are arguing about who's the greatest, it's hard to be humble. Right? If you're debating who's the greatest, it's hard to let somebody else be first. You just can't do that. And so he says to them, I want you to love one another. And how are they to love one another? As he had loved them. I want us to look at some verses and see if we can figure out from the text what that was. Look at verse 13. Greater love has no one than this, than to lay down one's life for his friends. What kind of love is that? Sacrificial. Now I think that mates especially will say something like, I would die for you. And, I understand that. But it's a pretty tall order to lay down your life for just a friend, isn't it? I have good friends. I know you have good friends. And how many of them would you walk up to and in all sincerity, meaning it from the depths of your soul, say, I'd die for you? That's kind of tough, isn't it? That's kind of where the rubber meets the road. And so he says, greater love has no man than a man lay down his life for his friends. Why is that so pertinent right here? He's going to do it. He is going to do that very thing. He's going to lay down his life for his friends. But what's more, and what makes it even harder, is he's going to lay down his life for his enemies. Now, there might be some people that I love enough that I'd say I'd die for you, but let's go out here to the guy on the street and let me just look him in the eye and say, I'd die for you. And we might say that, but how many of us could actually mean that? I would give my life for you. So the kind of love that he asked for is sacrificial love. Now look at verse 14. You are my friends if you do whatever I command you. What kind of love is that? Okay. Loyal. Anybody else want in on this? What about intimate? What kind of love did he have for them? Not the kind that you have just for a stranger, but the kind that you have for a friend. Someone that you are close to. Someone that means the world to you. You all know my great affection for my friend Sam Bartrug, who preaches in Ohio. He's been here for a couple of meetings before for us. And he called me. He said, "How are you?" I said, "Do you really want to know?" He said, "I got all the time in the world." And we talked for a good while as friend to friend. I mean, I would not talk to anybody else like that. He would not talk to anybody else like that. It's just that nearness, that intimacy that transcends the relationship that we have with other people. We can have lots of friends. Somebody have a cough drop for me before I myself to death. Thank you. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. You don't mind if I have my dog smell this before I take it, do you? I have one of those dogs that sniffs this kind of stuff. That was what I was watching just before I came to church. I mean, we have people who are acquaintances, people that we like. But probably we don't have very many who are that friend that is closer than a brother. And so he says, I love you like a friend, my best friend. And while the rest of you were saying things that were all true, I just, for sermonizing, I look at a text homiletically, I would say that was intimate.
That's a big compliment to them, because the only other one we really see that mentioned is Abraham is called a friend of God.
Yes. Thank you, honey.
To him in James chapter 2.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's a big compliment to them, whether they do it or not.
Indeed it is. Indeed it is. Look at verse 16. No longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends. For all things that I heard from my Father I have made known to you. What kind of love do you see there?
He's counting them like family.
Like family?
Because whatever has been revealed to him, he's revealed.
Okay.
And him also shared it with him.
There you go. I would put down initiative. Who took the initiative to love whom?
Christ did, because he chose them.
That's right. I chose you. You didn't choose me. I chose you. And I think that's an important point here. That after a while they got on board and things were good. But initially, it was all Jesus. It was him looking at them and what a motley crew they were. That would be a good name for a rock band. Write that down. Okay.
Rock on, Tom.
But he looked at this bunch and said, I want you. I love you. In spite of you, I love you. I choose you. Is the same thing true for us? Before you ever chose him, guess what? We love Him because He first loved us. He took the initiative. Now, are all of us wonderfully lovable? I know everybody in the room is, but think of somebody who's not here. Are we all just really lovable? Do we ever get to be hard to get along with? Unreasonable sometimes? And guess what? He loves us anyway, warts and all. And I don't know whether that resonates with you as it does with me or not, because I know me and I know I don't deserve that. I don't deserve His love at all. I'm thankful for it. I believe in it. But I don't believe for a moment that I'm worthy of it. Don't feel like that I have any right to claim His love. And so there is initiative. Look at verse 16. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatever you ask the Father in my name, He may give you. What kind of love is that?
Parents love? Comforted here, the love.
Okay.
Generous, giving.
Very good. I've got down productivity, but it's the same thing. He expects something to be done because He loves us. He doesn't say, I love you so you don't have to do anything. I love you so you just sit back and take it easy. He says, I've appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain. I expect you to go do something. Now, what's that take us back to in this chapter? If you love me, keep my commandments. The vine and the branches. What's His will for branches? You bear fruit. If you don't bear fruit, what's the husbandman do? Cuts it off. Go burns it. Yeah. And so He expects us to be productive. Now, you think about it. It's sacrificial love. It's intimate love. It's love that takes the initiative. It's love that produces good fruit. Now, you tell me about that kind of love. How hard is that to have? And let me just make a comment here on this productivity. Sometimes do people think that instead of producing something productive and good in our lives, that if they love us, they will, and it doesn't produce anything good at all but something bad? How many guys, I don't want to pick on guys too much here because I are one, but has said to a girl in a car on a dead-end street in the dark, if you love me, you will. And she falls for it. What should be her answer?
If you love me, you wouldn't ask.
That's exactly right. If you love me, you wouldn't ask. That's not love. That's lust. And they have 4 letters, but they're not even close. They are very different. They're miles apart. And so He expects us to be productive, to bear fruit. That's what He calls us to. Now, look in a mirror and say, how you doing? And we say, not so good on some of this. And yet, that's what He calls us to. 1 John 3. I told you that there were things in First John and John, the epistle, that say the same thing, beginning at verse 11. For this is the message that you heard from the beginning, that we should love one another. Not as Cain, who was of the wicked one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his works were evil and his brother's righteous. Why did Cain kill Abel? Jealousy. Absolutely. But what was the command? Love your brother. He said, no, can't do that. I'm jealous. Does jealousy ever keep us from loving one another like we ought to? You think? I think it most assuredly does. Okay? Questions, comments to this point? Who has something about the relationship that we are to have to one another, and we sum it up in a word? Well, love. We are to love one another as He loved us, okay? Okay. Verses 18 through 27. My little children, let us not love in word or in tongue, but in deed and in truth. And by this we know that we are of the truth and shall assure our hearts before Him. Oh. Thank you.
It was really deep.
I know. You know, but you,
Keep reading until you got there.
but you love me anyway, don't you? These things I command you, that you love one another. If the world hates you, does that sound familiar? You know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. Yet because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will also persecute you. If they kept my word, they will keep yours also. But all these things they will do to you for my name's sake, because they do not know Him who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they wouldn't have no sin. But now they have no excuse for their sin. He who hates me hates my Father also. If I had not done among them the works which no one else did, they would have no sin. But now they have seen and also hated both me and my Father. But this happened that the word might be fulfilled which is written in their law. They hated me without a cause. But when the Helper comes, whom I will send you to you from the Father, the Spirit of truth also proceeds from the Father. He will testify of me. And you also will bear witness, because you have been with me from the beginning. What's the relationship of the world to the disciples? Hatred. Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly right. Hatred. You can expect to be hated. Now, why was that such an important thing to tell the disciples at this time?
Probably so that they wouldn't take it to heart so much and people did hate on them.
Okay.
I think it goes into the book of Acts. Persecutions start happening after the church is formed. And they're going to go through this persecutions like Jesus did.
Exactly right. They're going to go through some tough stuff. They're going to be hated. And by the way, you got the commercial, did you not? Like in the book of Acts. And that's what we're studying on Sunday morning. That's a plug. Thank you. Yeah, this is my month. Um, Kenny, I think it's, where's Kenny? I think it's Kenny's next month, but this is my month. We forget how much the people hated Jesus and what they did and how much they hated his disciples. Why did they kill the first Christian martyr? They hated what he said. Why did they put the apostles, as far as we know, they put all the apostles to death with the exception of John. John was the only one to die non-violently. If we're right on that, he died a natural death as an old man. But everybody else was put to death. And so they're going to see him led away that night. They're going to see him crucified and buried. And they're going to say, is that what it means when he says, take up your cross and follow me? Might we have to go through that? Might those kind of things happen to us too? And Jesus is saying, they hated me, they will hate you. Now, why? Why did the world hate Jesus? I think there are two reasons. Let's see if we can hone in on these.
All them to change their hearts into
Okay.
It went against the culture of Judaism, and the Pharisees didn't like it because it was taking away their livelihood.
Okay. Anybody else?
It exposed their sin, and they didn't like it.
That's right.
They brought it to light.
When you point out somebody's wrong, they have two things to do. One of them is to say, okay, I'm going to change and do better. Or, I hate you, I'm out of here. Isn't that right? I mean, those are the two choices. And I will tell you, I've had people in my office, and we were talking about some pretty serious things, and they didn't agree, and they said, I'm out of here. I mean, you can't grab them by the scruff of the neck and pull them back in and say, no, you're going to sit here and listen. They didn't like what they were hearing. It was true, but they didn't like what they were hearing. The world did not like what they were hearing from Jesus. He pointed out their sinfulness. This is sin. You can't do this and please the Father. But I think there's another reason. Try this one on. He was just plain different. What about people who are just plain different? What do we have a tendency to do to those people? We just kind of shut them off. I remember a fella that in no way did I hate him. I just didn't understand him until I talked to him. Found out about his background. Found out, I understand now why you're the way you are. It makes sense. But for the longest time, I saw him coming. I went the other way. Because I had no clue how to interact with him. I had no clue what he was talking about. Had no clue how to deal with him. Wasn't his fault. He was just different. Jesus was just different. And because of that, they wanted nothing to do with him. And Jesus says, if they hate me like that, don't be surprised if they hate you. Because I want you to be like me. I've got two sermons in the pot that I plan to present before long. They go together. One of them is how much does it cost, and the other one is how much does it pay. Now you think about it. Does sometimes how much a thing costs keep you from getting it?
This is about tariffs.
Right. But there have been things when I've said, how much did it cost? And they told me, I said, I don't want any of that. And then, how much does it pay? If you're looking for a job, what's one of the first things you want to know? How much does it pay? So I think those are two good questions to ask in regard to Christianity. How much does it cost and how much does it pay? So stand by. Come into a congregation near you. If all things go well, we'll have those. Look back at Matthew 10:24. Oh, we're out of time. That's all right. We're at the end of the chapter. Matthew 10:24. A disciple is not above his teacher, nor a servant above his master. What's Jesus' point?
We're equal.
Yeah. If they did this to me, do you think you're going to get by with any less? If they persecuted me, you think you're not going to be persecuted? If they hated me, you think you're not going to be hated? I'm the master, and if they did that to me, then they're certainly going to do that to you, who is the servant. Okay. Now, I'm relatively sure that we start with chapter 16 next time. Am I right on that? Okay. Thanks so much. Thanks to those of you who helped me get over the